lens doesn't lie, Gabriel. People do. But this glass, it sees the rot underneath. Gabriel stared at the heavy brass instrument, its glass eye reflecting a distorted version of his own face. His uncle had left him many things, but this antique camera felt heavy, with a weight that wasn't physical. As he peered through the viewfinder, the bustling street of Blackwood Falls transformed. The town baker, usually a man of smiles and flour-dusted aprons, wasn't a man at all. Through the third eye, his skin appeared as a translucent, shivering veil, stretched over a mass of writhing, obsidian shadows. Gabriel's breath hitched, the cold metal of the casing biting into his palms. The entity behind the baker's eyes stared back, sensing the observation. It wasn't a glitch or a trick of the light. It was a parasitic infestation hiding in plain sight. Blackwood Falls was a curated stage, and its lead actors were being worn like cheap suits. Gabriel realized the inheritance wasn't a gift of art, but a mandate of sight. He clicked the shutter, the mechanical snap sounding like a gunshot in the quiet room. The hunt for the source had begun, and the truth was more terrifying than any local legend. Walking through the town square, Gabriel kept the camera tucked against his chest, disguised by a leather strap. To the casual observer, he was just a grieving nephew capturing memories of a quaint village. But every few steps, he raised the viewfinder, scanning the crowd for the telltale shimmer of the unmaking. He spotted the mayor standing on the courthouse steps, delivering a speech about community growth and prosperity. Through the lens, the mayor's suit didn't contain a heart or lungs, but a pulsing, bioluminescent core that radiated a sickly violet hue. The shadows around the politician seemed to move independently of the sun, reaching out like frantic fingers toward the unsuspecting citizens. Gabriel felt a wave of nausea. How long had these things been governing the town? The entities were systematic, choosing positions of influence to mask their presence. He noticed a pattern in their movements, a subtle, rhythmic swaying that suggested a collective consciousness. They weren't just individuals. They were a hive. He needed to find where the first breach occurred, before the entire population was replaced by these hollowed-out husks. The camera's lens pulsed with a faint, internal heat, reacting to the proximity of the growing darkness that threatened to consume the very foundations of Blackwood Falls. Night fell over Blackwood Falls, casting long, jagged shadows across the cobblestone streets. Gabriel found himself outside the local library, a building that had always been the silent heart of the community. He raised the camera, the moonlight glinting off its polished surface. The stone walls of the library seemed to breathe through the viewfinder, covered in a moss-like substance that wasn't visible to the naked eye. This wasn't biological growth. It was a psychic residue, a trail left by the entities as they moved through the stacks. Inside, the head librarian sat at her desk, her movements mechanical and precise. Through the third eye, her head was a hollow shell, filled with a swarm of iridescent insects that hummed in a frequency Gabriel could feel in his teeth. He realized the library wasn't just a place for books. It was a data center for the infestation, a place where the town's history was being rewritten to suit the newcomers. He crept through the aisles, the smell of old paper replaced by a metallic, ozone scent. Every click of the shutter captured more evidence of the slow, methodical erasure of the town's humanity. The source was close, buried somewhere beneath the layers of recorded time and forgotten secrets. Gabriel followed the trail of psychic residue to the edge of town, where the old textile mill stood as a skeletal monument to the past. The camera's lens began to vibrate, the glass humming with an urgent, warning tone. He climbed through a broken window, the air inside thick with a shimmering mist that tasted like copper. Through the viewfinder, the rusted machinery was covered in shimmering webs, connecting the possessed citizens who stood in silent circles throughout the factory floor. They were dormant, their human faces slack and expressionless, while the entities within them exchanged pulses of light. Gabriel realized the mill was a nursery, a place where the shadows were being gestated before being sent out into the town. The third eye revealed a massive, pulsating rift in the center of the floor, a tear in the fabric of reality that bled pure, unadulterated void. This was the doorway, the breach through which the infestation had poured into Blackwood Falls. He had to document the rift's structure to understand how to close it. But the entities were beginning to stir. Their collective mind had finally detected the intruder with the camera, the one person who could see their true, horrifying nature through the antique glass. The silence of the mill was broken by a low, guttural vibration that shook the floorboards. Gabriel watched through the camera as the entities began to detach themselves from the machinery, their human shells twitching with unnatural vigor. "You shouldn't have looked," a voice echoed, though none of the husks moved their mouths. It was a telepathic broadcast, a chorus of 1,000 voices speaking as one. Gabriel kept his finger on the shutter, capturing the geometric patterns of the rift as it expanded. The third eye showed the rift wasn't just a hole. It was a tethered anchor, held in place by several crystalline pillars of solidified shadow. To stop the infestation, he would have to destroy the anchors, but they were guarded by the most powerful entities in the hive. He saw the baker and the mayor among them, their forms flickering between human and shadow as they converged on his position. The camera began to glow with a fierce, white light, its internal mechanism spinning at an impossible speed. It wasn't just a recording device. It was a focal point for reality. The lens had the power to burn through the illusions, but only if Gabriel had the courage to stand his ground against the encroaching tide of the void. With a roar of static, Gabriel activated the camera's hidden function, a flash that didn't just illuminate the room, but seared the entities with concentrated truth. The blinding light struck the first anchor, causing the crystalline pillar to shatter into 1,000 shards of harmless dust. The entities shrieked, a sound that bypassed the ears and tore directly into the mind. Through the viewfinder, Gabriel saw the shadows recoiling, their grip on their human hosts weakening as the rift began to destabilize. He moved with a frantic energy, snapping photos of the remaining pillars, each flash a strike against the heart of the infestation. The mayor's shell collapsed, the violet core within it extinguishing like a blown candle. The baker fell to his knees, his face regaining a flicker of genuine human confusion. The tide was turning, but the rift was fighting back, lashing out with tendrils of darkness that sought to crush the camera and its wielder. Gabriel felt the coldness of the void pressing against his chest, trying to snuff out his resolve. He focused on the last anchor, his vision blurring as the camera's power drained his own strength. He needed one more shot, one more moment of absolute clarity to sever the connection forever. The final flash was so bright, it seemed to turn the world inside out. For a moment, Gabriel saw the true Blackwood Falls, a place of light and potential, free from the creeping rot of the shadows. The last anchor crumbled, and the rift collapsed in on itself, with a sound like a closing book. The shimmering mist dissipated, replaced by the mundane smell of dust and old iron. Gabriel collapsed to the floor, the heavy camera still clutched in his hands. Through the viewfinder, he saw the townspeople waking up, their eyes clear, and their movements their own once again. The entities were gone, banished back to the void from which they had crawled. The camera's lens was now cool and silent, its task completed for this generation. He looked out the window at the rising sun, the first light of a new day touching the rooftops of Blackwood Falls. The inheritance had been a burden, a terrifying glimpse into the darkness that hides beneath the surface of the ordinary. But as he stood up and slung the camera over his shoulder, he knew he would keep it. There would always be other shadows, other towns in need of someone who could see the truth. Gabriel walked out of the mill, a silent guardian with a lens of fire.